Marcus Chen stood at the viewing port of the space station, watching the Zephyrian fleet approach. 12 massive warships, each one larger than anything humanity had built in the last 3 centuries. Their hulls gleamed with energy shields that could deflect plasma cannons, and their weapons could crack planets in half. The galaxy's newest superpower had come to collect what they claimed was theirs. Behind him, Station Commander Williams paced nervously across the metal floor. The sound of his boots echoed in the observation deck. "They'll be here in 6 hours," Williams said, his voice shaking. "Marcus, you need to understand. We can't fight them. Nobody can. The Zephyrians have conquered 17 star systems in the past 2 years. They've destroyed entire fleets without losing a single ship." Marcus didn't turn around. He kept watching the approaching vessels, noting their formation patterns and the way they moved through space. Professional habits died hard even after 40 years. "I know what they've done," he said quietly. "Then you know we have to surrender the mining rights to this system. It's not worth dying for some rocks and metals." William stopped pacing and looked at the old man. Marcus was thin and gray-haired, wearing simple civilian clothes. Nothing about him suggested he had once been the most feared human in the galaxy. The other species had good reasons to fear humans once. 300 years ago, humanity had been expanding rapidly across the stars. They were aggressive, unpredictable, and absolutely refused to give up. While other species fought with honor codes and rules of engagement, humans fought to win. They used strategies that other species considered impossible or insane. They attacked when logic said they should retreat. They turned defeats into victories through sheer stubbornness and creativity. But that was ancient history. Modern humanity had grown soft and comfortable. They lived in peace with their alien neighbors, traded goods across the galaxy, and solved problems through diplomacy rather than warfare. The younger generations barely remembered the old stories about human warriors who could hold entire systems with nothing but determination and clever tactics. Marcus remembered, though. He had been there during the border wars, when humanity fought against the Krantech Empire. He had seen what humans could do when they stopped playing by everyone else's rules. The galaxy had forgotten those lessons, but Marcus carried them in his bones. "Sir," a communications officer called from across the room. "The Zephyrian commander is requesting to speak with station leadership." William straightened his uniform and walked toward the communications console. Marcus finally turned from the viewing port. "I'll handle this," he said. "Marcus, no. You're not in charge here anymore. You're just a mining consultant." Williams tried to sound firm, but his voice cracked. "Trust me," Marcus said. He moved to the console and activated the communication channel. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a Zephyrian commander. The alien was tall and covered in blue-scaled skin, with 4 arms and eyes that glowed yellow. Its voice came through the speakers as a series of clicks and growls translated by the station's computer. "Humans of Mining Station 774, the translation said. "I am Commander Vexthul of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. This system now belongs to the Zephyrian Empire. You have 6 hours to evacuate all personnel and equipment. Any ships remaining after that time will be destroyed." Marcus studied the alien commander's face on the screen. He had fought the Zephyrians' ancestors during the border wars. Different species, but similar arrogance. "Commander Vexthul," he said calmly. "I'm Marcus Chen, speaking for this station. We decline your generous offer." The Zephyrian's eyes flashed brighter yellow. "You decline? Human, do you understand what you face? Our ships carry enough firepower to turn your station into dust. Our shields can withstand anything you might use against us. Surrender now and you will be allowed to leave with your lives." "I understand perfectly," Marcus replied. "You have 12 ships, approximately 15,000 crew members, and enough weapons to destroy this station 50 times over. What you don't understand is that it doesn't matter." Commander Williams grabbed Marcus's arm. "What are you doing?" he whispered urgently. Marcus gently removed Williams' hand and continued speaking to the Zephyrian. "You see, Commander, your species is new to galactic conquest. You've been very successful because you've been fighting civilized opponents. Species that fight fair, follow rules, and surrender when the logical thing to do is surrender." Vexthul leaned forward in the display. "And humans are different? Modern humans? No, they're just as civilized as everyone else. But I'm not a modern human, Commander. I'm what humans used to be. I'm what your species never learned to fight against." The communication channel went quiet for a moment. Marcus could see other Zephyrians moving around in the background of the transmission, probably checking their databases for information about him. Marcus Chen, Vexthul said slowly, the ghost of Kepler Station. I have read the reports from the border wars. Those stories cannot be true. Which stories? Marcus asked. The one where I held Kepler Station against an entire Krantech battle group for 6 months? Or the one where I destroyed their command ship using nothing but mining equipment and a broken communications array? Those are legends, exaggerations. Marcus smiled, and for the first time William saw something dangerous in the old man's eyes. Commander, you have 5 hours and 57 minutes to evacuate this system. Any ships remaining after that time will be destroyed. Vexthul's scales darkened with anger. You mock me, old human. You have one small mining station with minimal defenses. We have a fleet that has never known defeat. Then I guess you're about to learn something new, Marcus said, and cut the transmission. The observation deck fell silent. William stared at Marcus in shock. Have you lost your mind? They'll destroy us! Marcus walked back to the viewing port and looked out at the approaching fleet. Maybe, but probably not. You see, Commander, there's something the galaxy forgot about humans. We're really good at killing things that think they can't be killed. He turned to face the station's crew, who had gathered to listen to the conversation. We have 6 hours to remind the galaxy why they used to be afraid of us. Anyone who wants to leave can take the emergency shuttles. Anyone who wants to stay can help me show these Zephyrians what humans are really capable of. Most of the crew looked terrified, but a few nodded grimly. Williams shook his head. This is suicide, Marcus. No, Marcus said quietly. This is what humans do best. We take impossible situations and make them possible. The galaxy forgot that lesson. Time to teach it again. Marcus walked through the mining station's corridors with purpose, his mind already working on solutions that didn't exist yet. Behind him, Chief Engineer Sarah Kim struggled to keep up. She was young, maybe 30, and had never seen real combat. Her hands shook as she carried her tablet, pulling up schematics and system reports. Mr. Chen, she said breathlessly, I've run the numbers 3 times. Our defensive systems were designed to keep pirates away, not fight a military fleet. We have 2 plasma cannons, basic shields, and some mining charges. That's it. Those Zephyrian ships have weapons that could punch through our hull like paper. Marcus stopped at a maintenance hatch and opened it, revealing a maze of pipes and cables that ran through the station's skeleton. Sarah, how long have you been working on mining stations? 5 years, sir. But I don't see what that has to do with... And in those 5 years, how many impossible repairs have you made? How many times have you fixed systems that the manual said couldn't be fixed? Sarah paused, thinking. Well, there was the reactor leak on Station 9 too, and the gravity generator that exploded on the Hermes platform. And last month when the water recyclers failed and we had to build new ones from spare parts. Exactly. Marcus climbed into the maintenance tunnel. Engineers don't think about what's impossible. They think about what needs to be done and find a way to do it. Today, what needs to be done is stopping 12 warships with a mining station. They crawled through the tunnel toward the station's power core. Around them, the walls hummed with energy and the air tasted of metal and ozone. Sarah had been working on stations like this for years, but following Marcus made her see everything differently. He pointed out weaknesses in the station's structure that could be turned into strengths, backup systems that could be repurposed for things they were never designed to do. The Zephyrians think this is just a mining station, Marcus explained as they reached the power core chamber. They see exactly what it appears to be, a small facility designed to extract resources from asteroids. They don't see what it really is. The power core was a massive fusion reactor that could have provided energy for a small city. Around it, dozens of cables and conduits carried power to every system on the station. Sarah knew every centimeter of this equipment, but Marcus was looking at it like he saw something else entirely. What do you see? She asked. I see the largest bomb in the system, Marcus said quietly. Fusion reactors are incredibly stable under normal conditions. But if you overload the magnetic containment fields in exactly the right way, at exactly the right moment... He trailed off, studying the control panels. Sarah's eyes widened. You want to turn our own reactor into a weapon? That's completely insane. Even if it worked, it would destroy the station. We'd all die. Not if we time it right. Marcus pulled out a portable computer and began connecting it to the reactor's control systems. The Zephyrians will want to capture the station intact if possible. Their species values resources above all else. They'll send boarding parties before they resort to bombardment. How do you know that? Marcus's fingers moved quickly across the computer's keyboard, uploading programs that Sarah didn't recognize. Because I've studied every species in the galaxy for 40 years. The Zephyrians are conquerors, but they're also practical. They don't destroy what they can take and use. On the other side of the station, Commander Williams was trying to coordinate an evacuation. Most of the crew had already left on emergency shuttles, but about 30 people had chosen to stay. They gathered in the main conference room, looking nervous and uncertain. Williams activated the station's communication system. Attention all remaining personnel. I want everyone to understand what we're facing. The Zephyrian fleet has enough firepower to destroy this station in minutes. Mr. Chen believes we can fight them, but I need you to know the risks. An older man named Peterson, who ran the station's cafeteria, raised his hand. Commander, I fought in the asteroid belt conflicts 20 years ago. I've seen what happens when you try to fight superior forces with inadequate equipment. It doesn't end well. Then why did you stay? Williams asked. Peterson was quiet for a moment. Because Marcus Chen isn't just anyone. My grandfather told me stories about the border wars. About humans who could turn mining equipment into weapons and communications arrays into ship killers. I thought they were just stories until today. A young technician named Rodriguez spoke up. Sir, what exactly are we supposed to do? I can fix life support systems and operate asteroid miners, but I'm not a soldier. You don't need to be a soldier, came Marcus's voice from the doorway. He entered the room with Sarah close behind him. You need to be human. Marcus walked to the front of the room and activated the main display screen. It showed a schematic of the mining station with dozens of modifications highlighted in red. Every person in this room has skills that can be weaponized. Rodriguez, you said you can operate asteroid miners. Those miners have cutting lasers powerful enough to slice through ship hulls. Peterson, the cafeteria's food processors use high-pressure systems that can be turned into projectile weapons. Sarah stared at the display. In the past 2 hours, Marcus had designed modifications that would turn their peaceful mining station into something completely different. It was still insane, but it was brilliantly insane. The Zephyrians expect us to fight like a military installation. Marcus continued. They've prepared for plasma cannons and missiles and shield generators. They haven't prepared for humans who refuse to play by the rules. Williams looked at the modifications on the screen. Marcus, even if this works, we're still vastly outnumbered. 12 ships against 1 station. Numbers don't always matter, Marcus replied. During the border wars, I held Kepler Station against 47 Krantech ships for 6 months. You want to know how? The room fell silent. Everyone had heard the stories, but nobody had ever heard the details from Marcus himself. I made them think like me, Marcus said. Every time they tried to use their superior numbers, I forced them into situations where numbers didn't matter. Narrow corridors where only 1 ship could attack at a time. Asteroid fields where their big ships couldn't maneuver. I made them fight on my terms, not theirs. He pointed to the display screen. This system has 3 asteroid belts and a gas giant with 17 moons. The Zephyrians are bringing a fleet designed for open space battles. We're going to make sure they never get to fight that kind of battle. Rodriguez raised his hand tentatively. Sir, what do you need us to do? Marcus smiled. And for the first time since the Zephyrians had arrived, Williams felt a spark of hope. First, we're going to make some modifications to our mining equipment. Then we're going to teach the galaxy why humans used to be the most feared species in the stars. Outside the station, the Zephyrian fleet continued its approach. Commander Vexthol stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying sensor readings of the human station. It looked exactly like what it claimed to be, a small mining facility with minimal defenses. Commander, his tactical officer reported, the human station has not powered down its systems or begun evacuation procedures. Vexthol's scales shifted to a darker blue, indicating annoyance. Then they have chosen death over wisdom. Prepare boarding parties. We will take the station intact and use the humans as examples for other systems that might resist our expansion. He had read the reports about Marcus Chen, but those were old stories from a different era. Modern humans were soft and peaceful. They had forgotten how to fight. The Zephyrian Empire would remind them of their place in the galaxy's new order. What Vexthol didn't know was that some humans never forgot anything. 4 hours remained until the Zephyrian deadline. Marcus stood in the station's primary docking bay, watching his makeshift crew work with desperate efficiency. The mining station had been transformed into something that looked like controlled chaos, but every modification served a specific purpose. Sarah Kim welded the final connections on what used to be an asteroid processing unit. The massive machine had been designed to break apart space rocks and sort valuable minerals. Now it was something entirely different. "Magnetic launcher is ready," she called out, wiping sweat from her forehead. "It can accelerate a 2-ton projectile to 15% of light speed." "What are we shooting?" asked Rodriguez, who was programming the targeting computer. Marcus pointed to a stack of processed titanium ingots nearby. "Each one of those ingots is worth about 10,000 credits on the galactic market. Today they're ammunition." Peterson emerged from behind a stack of equipment covered in grease and grinning widely. "The kitchen is ready too, Mr. Chen. I've converted the pressure cookers into pneumatic launchers. They can fire anything from dinner plates to emergency oxygen tanks." Williams walked over to Marcus, shaking his head in amazement. "I've been a station commander for 15 years. I've never seen anything like this. You've turned our entire facility into a weapon." "Not a weapon," Marcus corrected. "A trap." On the main display screen, the Zephyrian fleet was now close enough for detailed scans. The ships were beautiful in their own way, sleek and predatory, covered in energy shields that shimmered like oil on water. Each vessel was easily 5 times larger than the mining station. "Commander Vexthul is hailing us again," reported Communications Officer Liu from her station. Marcus nodded. "Put him through." The Zephyrian commander appeared on the main screen, his yellow eyes blazing with impatience. "Human Chen, your time is running short. Our sensors detect unusual activity on your station. What are you attempting?" "Just some routine maintenance," Marcus replied calmly. "You know how it is with old equipment. Always something that needs fixing." Vexthul leaned forward, his forearms crossed menacingly. "Do not mock me, old human. I have studied your history. You were dangerous once, but that time has passed. The galaxy has moved beyond the primitive tactics of your people." "Has it?" Marcus asked. "Tell me, Commander, how many species have you conquered in the past 2 years?" 17 systems have joined the Zephyrian Empire," Vexthul said proudly. "And how many of them fought back?" The Zephyrian paused. 3 attempted resistance. "They were discouraged," Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "Let me guess. They met your fleets in open space, ship against ship, using standard military tactics. When they realized they were outgunned, they surrendered to avoid unnecessary casualties. Civilized beings understand when they are defeated," Vexthul said. "Exactly. Civilized beings fight civilized wars. They follow rules of engagement, protect civilians, and surrender when logic dictates that further resistance is futile." Marcus stepped closer to the screen. "But Commander, what happens when you face someone who isn't civilized? Someone who doesn't follow the rules?" For the first time, uncertainty flickered in the Zephyrian's glowing eyes. "You speak of chaos, of barbarism." "I speak of survival," Marcus said quietly. "Your empire has grown strong because you've been fighting opponents who care about preserving life and minimizing destruction. What happens when you fight someone who cares only about winning?" The transmission cut off abruptly. Williams looked at Marcus with a mixture of admiration and concern. "You're getting inside his head." "Good," Marcus replied. "Doubt is a weapon too." Across the mining station, the crew continued their preparations. The facility's mining lasers had been reconfigured as precision cutting tools, capable of slicing through ship hulls at close range. Emergency supply pods had been converted into guided missiles, packed with everything from medical supplies to cleaning chemicals that could eat through metal. In the station's computer core, Marcus had uploaded programs that would have been illegal in civilized space. Viruses designed to infiltrate ship systems and turn their own computers against them. Communication scramblers that could cause entire fleets to lose coordination. Electronic warfare tools that humanity had developed during their most desperate conflicts, and then buried because they were too dangerous for peaceful societies. "Marcus," Sarah called from across the docking bay. "I finished the modifications to the station's maneuvering thrusters. We can't move very fast, but we can change position if we need to." Marcus smiled. "Excellent. A moving target is much harder to hit than a stationary one." Rodriguez looked up from his targeting computer. "Sir, I have to ask, do you really think this will work?" "Even if we destroy 1 or 2 of their ships, they still have 10 more. Rodriguez, let me tell you something about humans," Marcus said, walking over to the young technician. We're not the strongest species in the galaxy. We're not the smartest or the fastest or the most advanced, but we have one advantage that no other species has ever figured out how to counter. What's that? We're too stupid to know when we're beaten. Peterson laughed from across the bay. My grandfather used to say the same thing. He fought in the Centauri Rebellion, when Earth was trying to hold on to its first colonies. The aliens had better ships, better weapons, better everything, but humans just kept fighting anyway. Because that's what humans do, Marcus said. We don't calculate odds and surrender when the math says we should lose. We look at impossible situations and ask, how can we make this work? Every other species in the galaxy has learned to accept defeat gracefully. Humans never learned that lesson. Williams activated the station-wide communication system. All personnel, this is Commander Williams. The Zephyrian fleet will be in weapons range in 90 minutes. I want everyone to understand what we're about to attempt. We're going to fight a military fleet with mining equipment and kitchen appliances. By every measure of common sense, this should be suicide. Marcus took the microphone. But common sense is overrated. Humans didn't conquer half the galaxy by being sensible. We did it by being stubborn, creative, and absolutely refusing to give up. Today we're going to remind the galaxy why they used to cross the street when they saw humans coming. On the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship, Commander Vexthul studied the tactical displays with growing unease. His intelligence officers had been researching Marcus Chen for the past 2 hours, and what they found was disturbing. Commander, his chief intelligence officer reported, we have confirmed data on the human called Marcus Chen. He was responsible for the Kepler Station incident, the destruction of the Krantech command ship Devastator, and approximately 47 other military victories during the border wars. Ancient history, Vexthul said, but his voice lacked conviction. Sir, there's more. Human military records indicate that Chen specialized in what they call asymmetric warfare, fighting larger, better-equipped forces using unconventional tactics. He never lost a battle. Vexthul's scales darkened. He never faced the Zephyrian Empire. With respect, Commander, neither did anyone else. All of our previous conquests surrendered after initial demonstrations of force. We have no experience fighting opponents who refuse to surrender. The commander stared at the mining station on his main screen. It looked harmless enough, but something about the situation felt wrong. In 40 years of military service, Vexthul had learned to trust his instincts. Sir, his tactical officer called. The human station is moving. On the screen, the mining station had begun a slow rotation, presenting a different face toward the approaching fleet. It was a minor adjustment, barely noticeable, but it changed the tactical situation in ways that Vexthul couldn't immediately calculate. They're positioning themselves, he realized. But for what? In 30 minutes, he would have his answer. The Zephyrian fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the mining system, their massive ships creating ripples in space-time that registered on every sensor for light years around. 12 warships, each one a masterpiece of military engineering, formed a perfect attack formation as they approached the small human mining station. Commander Vexthul stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display with professional satisfaction. The human station looked pathetic compared to his fleet. One small facility against the might of the Zephyrian Empire. This would be over quickly. Sir, his sensor operator reported, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the mining station. Their power output is fluctuating in patterns that don't match standard operations. Explain. It appears they're rerouting power to non-essential systems, sir. Possibly their communications array or I'm not sure what else. Vexthul's eyes narrowed. Put me through to the human station. Marcus Chen appeared on the main screen, standing calmly in what looked like a mining facility's control room. Behind him, Vexthul could see human workers moving about their tasks with deliberate efficiency. Commander Vexthul, Marcus said politely. Right on time. I appreciate punctuality. This is your final warning, human. Surrender immediately, or face destruction. Marcus glanced at something off-screen, then looked back at the Zephyrian commander. I have a counter-proposal. Leave this system immediately and we'll let you go unharmed. The bridge of Vexthul's ship fell silent. Several of his officers exchanged glances, wondering if they had heard correctly. One human on a mining station threatening an entire battle fleet. You mock me, Vexthul said, his scales shifting to an angry red color. Not at all, Marcus replied. I'm giving you the same choice you gave me. Leave or face the consequences. Human, I have 12 ships capable of reducing your station to atoms. What possible threat could you pose to my fleet? Marcus smiled, and Vexthal felt an unexpected chill. There was something in that smile that reminded him of predators from his homeworld, something cold and calculating. Commander, you've been studying my military record. Did you happen to read about the Battle of Proxima 7? Vexthal hesitated. His intelligence officers had mentioned that engagement, but the details seemed too incredible to believe. That's the one where I destroyed an entire Krantech patrol squadron using a broken communication satellite and 3 cargo containers full of industrial waste. Marcus continued conversationally. The Krantech fleet commander made the same mistake you're making right now. What mistake? He assumed that because his ships were bigger and stronger, he was going to win. Marcus stepped closer to the screen. Size and strength matter in a fair fight, Commander. But humans don't believe in fair fights. The transmission ended abruptly. Vexthal stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to his tactical officer. Begin the attack. Target their power systems first. I want them disabled, not destroyed. Sir, the sensor operator called urgently. The mining station is moving again. They're rotating to present their main docking bay toward our fleet. Suicidal, Vexthal muttered. They're making themselves an easier target. His fleet moved into attack formation, weapons charging, shields at maximum power. The mining station sat in space like a helpless metal box, dwarfed by the approaching warships. Everything about the situation suggested an easy victory. That should have been Vexthal's first warning. On the mining station, Marcus watched the Zephyrian fleet approach with calm satisfaction. Sarah, are you ready? Magnetic launcher is charged and loaded, she replied from her position at the modified asteroid processor. Targeting the lead ship's weapon systems. Rodriguez. All guidance systems are active. The improvised missiles are locked and loaded. Marcus activated the station's communication system. This is Marcus Chen to all stations. Remember, we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to survive an unfair one. Wait for my signal. The Zephyrian flagship opened fire first. Plasma bolts lanced through space toward the mining station, each one carrying enough energy to vaporize a small building. Marcus waited until the last possible second, then gave the order. Now, the mining station's maneuvering thrusters fired, pushing the facility out of the path of the incoming plasma bolts. At the same moment, Sarah's magnetic launcher fired, hurling a 2-ton titanium ingot at 15% of light speed directly at the lead Zephyrian ship. The Zephyrians had shields designed to stop energy weapons and conventional missiles. They were not designed to stop a solid metal projectile moving at relativistic speeds. The ingot punched through the flagship's shields like they weren't there, tore through the hull and exited the other side, leaving a perfectly round hole that vented atmosphere and crew members into space. Impossible, Vexthal shouted as damage reports flooded his bridge. How did they penetrate our shields? His tactical officer was frantically checking his displays. Sir, they fired a solid projectile. Our shields are calibrated for energy weapons and explosive devices. Solid matter at those velocities can punch through anything, Vexthal finished grimly. He was beginning to understand why the humans had once been feared throughout the galaxy. The second wave of attacks came from Rodriguez's improvised missiles. Emergency supply pods modified with guidance systems and packed with everything from medical supplies to cleaning chemicals streaked toward the Zephyrian ships. The aliens shot down most of them with point defense weapons, but 3 got through. One pod, filled with industrial lubricants, splashed across a Zephyrian ship's hull and began eating through the metal. Another, packed with magnetic resonance coils from the station's medical bay, attached itself to a ship's engine and began broadcasting interference patterns that confused the vessel's navigation systems. The third pod simply exploded against a ship's shield generator, but the explosion contained powdered titanium that created a cloud of conductive particles, causing the shield to overload and fail. Sir, the communications officer called from across the Zephyrian flagship's bridge. Ship 7 is reporting system failures across multiple decks. Ship 4 has lost main engine power. Ship 11's shields are down and they're venting atmosphere from the port side. Vexthal stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In less than 5 minutes, the humans had damaged 3 of his ships using what appeared to be improvised weapons made from mining equipment. All ships, focus fire on the mining station, he ordered. Maximum firepower. I want that facility destroyed. The Zephyrian fleet unleashed everything they had. Plasma cannons, missile launchers, and energy beam weapons all fired simultaneously, creating a light show that could have been seen from neighboring star systems. But the mining station wasn't there anymore. Marcus had used the station's maneuvering thrusters to push the facility behind a large asteroid, using the space rock as cover. The Zephyrian weapon struck the asteroid instead, fragmenting it into thousands of pieces that scattered across the area and created a debris field. Phase 2, Marcus announced calmly. The mining station's industrial lasers, originally designed to cut through asteroids, began firing at the Zephyrian ships through the debris field. The lasers weren't powerful enough to penetrate the aliens' armor, but they were precise enough to target specific systems. Communication arrays, sensor dishes, and weapon mounts began disappearing under the focused beam attacks. "Sir," Vexthul's sensor operator reported, his voice shaking, "we're losing targeting capability. The humans are systematically destroying our external systems. How are they targeting us through this debris field?" "Unknown, sir. Our sensors can barely track them. But somehow they can see us perfectly." What the Zephyrians didn't know was that Marcus had seeded the debris field with tiny transmitters from the station's communication system. Each piece of asteroid rubble was now a sensor node, giving the humans a perfect view of the battlefield while keeping them hidden from Zephyrian scanners. Vexthul realized he was no longer fighting a mining station. He was fighting something that had turned the entire asteroid field into a weapon. And for the first time in his military career, he began to understand what it meant to face an opponent who refused to follow the rules of civilized warfare. "All ships," he ordered reluctantly, "withdraw to minimum safe distance and reassess the situation." Marcus watched the Zephyrian fleet pull back and smiled grimly. Just like the Krantech at Proxima 7. They expected a quick victory, and now they don't know what to do when their initial plan fails. Williams looked at the tactical display in amazement. "Marcus, we actually hurt them." "We're just getting started," Marcus replied. "Now they're going to make their second mistake. They're going to try to fight us on our terms instead of theirs." The Zephyrian fleet regrouped at the edge of the asteroid field, their perfect formation now broken and uncertain. 3 ships were severely damaged, and the rest had lost various external systems to the humans' precision laser attacks. Commander Vexthul paced his bridge like a caged predator, his forearms gesturing angrily as he studied the tactical displays. "Report," he demanded from his tactical officer. "Sir, Ship 7 has lost main engine power and is operating on backup systems. Ship 4's navigation array was destroyed and they're having trouble maintaining formation. Ship 11 is sealing hull breaches on multiple decks." The officer paused, his voice uncertain. "And sir, we still can't get a clear sensor reading on the mining station. The debris field is interfering with our scanners." Vexthul's scale shifted to a deep red, indicating extreme frustration. "This is impossible. One mining station cannot defeat a military fleet." "Sir," his intelligence officer spoke hesitantly, "perhaps we should reconsider our approach. The humans are using tactics that we haven't encountered before." "Explain." "They're not fighting like a military installation. They're fighting like pirates, sir. Or guerrilla fighters. They use the environment as a weapon. They target our weaknesses instead of meeting our strengths, and they don't seem to care about following conventional rules of engagement." Vexthul studied the asteroid field on his main screen. Somewhere in that maze of floating rocks and debris, Marcus Chen was planning his next move. The Zephyrian commander had read the reports about human warfare during the border wars, but experiencing it firsthand was entirely different. "Sir," the communications officer called, "we're receiving a transmission from the mining station." Marcus Chen appeared on the screen, still calm and composed despite the fact that his tiny facility was facing an entire battle fleet. Behind him, Vexthul could see humans working efficiently at their stations, showing no signs of panic or fear. "Commander Vexthul," Marcus said pleasantly, "how are your ships holding up? I notice a few of them seem to be having technical difficulties." "This engagement is far from over, human," Vexthul replied, struggling to keep his voice steady. "Of course not. We're just getting to the interesting part." Marcus gestured to something off-screen. "Tell me, Commander, how familiar are you with human history?" "I know enough about your past military conflicts. I'm not talking about military history. I'm talking about human behavior. You see, there's something about humans that every other species finds difficult to understand. We have this peculiar habit of getting more dangerous when we're cornered. Vexthol's tactical officer was frantically working at his station, trying to get clear sensor readings through the debris field. "Sir," he whispered urgently, "I'm detecting movement in the asteroid field. Multiple contacts, but I can't determine what they are." Marcus continued speaking as if he hadn't heard the exchange. "Most species, when faced with superior force, will retreat or surrender to minimize casualties. It's logical, rational behavior. But humans have this genetic quirk that makes us do exactly the opposite." "You're attempting psychological warfare," Vexthol said. "Am I? Let me ask you something, Commander. In all your conquests, how many times has a weaker force actually damaged your ships?" Vexthol didn't answer, but Marcus could see the truth in his expression. "Never," Marcus said. "Because you've never fought humans before. You've fought civilized species who understand when they're beaten, but humans don't understand that concept. We get beaten and we just get angry." The transmission cut off, leaving Vexthol staring at a blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew worked nervously at their stations, trying to track targets that seemed to appear and disappear like ghosts. Inside the asteroid field, Marcus was implementing the next phase of his plan. The mining station had been completely transformed. What looked like a single facility was now effectively a mobile command center, controlling dozens of improvised weapons scattered throughout the debris field. Sarah Kim was monitoring the magnetic launcher, which they had somehow moved to a large asteroid using the station's mining equipment. "Marcus, the launcher is in position. We have a clear shot at their command ship." "Not yet," Marcus replied. "Let them come to us." Rodriguez was tracking the Zephyrian ships from his position at the modified sensor array. "Sir, they're moving into the asteroid field. Looks like they're trying to flush us out." Marcus nodded. This was exactly what he had expected. The Zephyrians were frustrated and angry, which meant they were about to make the same mistake that every superior force made when fighting humans. They were going to abandon their advantages and fight on human terms. "Peterson, are the surprises ready?" The older man grinned from his position at what used to be the kitchen equipment. "All ready, Mr. Chen. The pressure cookers are loaded with everything from metal scraps to frozen food. The dishwashers have been converted into electromagnetic pulse generators. And the coffee machines," he chuckled. "Well, let's just say they don't make coffee anymore." "Excellent. Williams, how are our communications?" Commander Williams was coordinating the defense from the station's bridge. "All improvised relay stations are operational. We have real-time communication with every position in the asteroid field." Marcus walked to the main viewing port and watched the Zephyrian ships slowly entering the debris field. The aliens were being cautious now, which was smart, but it was also exactly what Marcus wanted. Cautious enemies moved slowly and predictably. "All stations," he announced over the communication system. "The Zephyrians are coming into our parlor. Remember, we're not trying to destroy their entire fleet. We just need to convince them that conquering this system will cost more than it's worth." The lead Zephyrian ship moved carefully between two large asteroids, its sensors sweeping for threats. The ship's captain was competent and experienced, but he was looking for conventional dangers. Hidden missile launchers, camouflaged weapon platforms, military ambush points. He wasn't looking for a coffee machine that had been converted into a shaped charge explosive. Peterson triggered the device when the Zephyrian ship was directly overhead. The explosion wasn't powerful enough to destroy the vessel, but it was perfectly positioned to damage the ship's underside sensors and create a massive electromagnetic pulse that temporarily blinded the crew's instruments. "Now," Marcus called. The modified magnetic launcher fired from its asteroid position, sending another titanium ingot streaking toward the confused Zephyrian ship. This time the projectile struck the vessel's engine section, punching through armor plating and causing a cascade of system failures. Simultaneously, Rodriguez triggered the improvised missiles he had hidden throughout the asteroid field. Emergency supply pods, modified with guidance systems and packed with industrial chemicals, streaked toward the Zephyrian ships from multiple directions. Most were shot down by point defense weapons, but enough got through to cause significant damage. "Ship 3 is reporting engine failure," Vexthol's tactical officer called out. "Ship 8 has lost primary sensors." "Ship 5 is..." "Sir, Ship 5 is requesting permission to withdraw. They're reporting system failures on every deck." Vexthol watched in growing horror as his perfectly organized fleet was systematically dismantled by opponents he couldn't even see clearly. Every time his ships tried to target the humans, they found only empty space. Every time they thought they had located the mining station, it turned out to be a decoy made from mining equipment and emergency supplies. "Sir," his intelligence officer said quietly, "we need to consider that we may be facing an opponent we cannot defeat with conventional tactics." "Impossible," Vexthul snarled. "They're humans. One small mining station. Sir, with respect, they're not fighting like a mining station. They're fighting like—" The officer paused, searching for the right words. "Like something that refuses to die." On the mining station, Marcus was monitoring the battle with calm satisfaction. 3 more Zephyrian ships had been damaged, and the aliens were clearly struggling to adapt to human tactics, but he knew the real test was still coming. "Marcus," Williams called from the bridge. "Long-range sensors are detecting reinforcements. Another Zephyrian fleet, 6 ships approaching from the outer system." Marcus nodded.
"Right on schedule."
"Vexthul is calling for backup because he can't figure out how to fight us. But that means we'll be facing 18 ships instead of 12. Marcus smiled. And for the first time, William saw something genuinely frightening in the old man's expression. "Good. Now we get to show them what humans do when the odds get really impossible." The second Zephyrian fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel like avenging angels, their 6 massive warships bristling with weapons and shields. Admiral Kexavar commanded this reinforcement fleet, and she was known throughout Zephyrian space as someone who solved problems that other commanders could not handle. Commander Vexthul contacted her immediately, his pride wounded but his tactical sense still functioning. "Admiral, the situation is more complex than anticipated. The humans are using unconventional tactics that our standard protocols cannot counter." Admiral Kexvar studied the tactical displays from her flagship's bridge. She could see the debris field where Vexthul's fleet was operating, and the scattered signatures of damaged ships. "Explain how one mining station has damaged half your fleet, Commander." "They're not fighting like a mining station, Admiral. They've weaponized their entire facility and turned the asteroid field into a battlefield that favors their tactics over ours." Kexvar's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue color. She had studied human military history as part of her advanced tactical training, and she understood what Vexthul was facing. "You're dealing with asymmetric warfare, Commander. The humans specialize in making superior forces fight on disadvantageous terms. How do we counter it?" "We don't try to counter it," Kexvar said firmly. "We change the entire nature of the engagement. Withdraw your fleet to the edge of the system. I'm going to show these humans what happens when they face an opponent who refuses to play their games." On the mining station, Marcus watched the new Zephyrian fleet arrive with interest rather than concern. 18 ships now, he commented to Williams. "They're really committed to taking the system. Marcus, even with everything we've accomplished, we can't fight 18 warships. Our improvised weapons and traps won't be enough." Marcus activated the long-range communications array, establishing a connection that reached far beyond the local system. "Maybe not. But we're not alone anymore." Williams looked confused. "What do you mean?" "Do you think we're the only humans who remember what we used to be capable of?" Marcus asked. "Word has been spreading through the galaxy for the past 6 hours. Every human colony, every Earth settlement, every independent trader has heard the same message. The galaxy is testing us again." On the screen, Marcus pulled up communication logs from across human space. Messages were flooding in from dozens of systems, all variations on the same theme. Human cargo ships were changing course toward the mining system. Colonial defense forces were preparing to deploy. Independent traders were loading their ships with weapons and heading for the battle. "How many?" Williams asked in amazement. 43 ships so far, with more coming. Nothing fancy. Just cargo haulers and mining vessels and passenger transports. But every one of them is crewed by humans who remember the old stories. Admiral Kexavar was coordinating her fleet's deployment when her sensor operator called out urgently. "Admiral, we're detecting incoming ships. Multiple contacts approaching from various vectors. Zephyrian reinforcements?" "No, sir. The signatures match human civilian vessels. Cargo ships, mining platforms, passenger transports. But, Admiral..." The sensor operator paused, checking his readings again. "They're all armed." Kexavar felt a chill run through her body. In all her years of military service, she had never encountered a situation where civilian ships voluntarily flew toward a military engagement. "How many ships?" 47 contacts so far, Admiral. And more are appearing on long-range sensors." Marcus opened a communication channel that reached every human ship in the system. This is Marcus Chen aboard Mining Station 774. To all incoming vessels, you are flying into a combat zone. The Zephyrian Empire has 18 warships in this system, and they're here to remind the galaxy that humans can be conquered. Responses came in immediately from the approaching human ships. This is Captain Morrison aboard the cargo hauler New Frontier. We didn't come here to be conquered, Marcus. We came here to fight. Captain Zhang of the passenger liner Horizon calling. My grandfather fought at the Battle of Wolf 359. He told me stories about what humans could do when they stopped being polite. This is the mining ship Terra Nova. We've got industrial lasers and a crew that remembers the border wars. Where do you want us? Williams stared at the communications display in wonder. They're really coming. Civilian ships flying into a battle against military warships. That's what humans do, Marcus said simply. When one of us is threatened, we all respond. The galaxy forgot that too. Admiral Kexavar watched the human-civilian fleet approach with growing unease. Her tactical training had never covered scenarios like this. Military fleets followed predictable patterns and used standard strategies. But civilian ships operated by different rules entirely. Admiral, her intelligence officer reported, we're intercepting communications between the human vessels. They're coordinating their approach but not using any recognized military protocols. What are they using? It appears to be commercial shipping protocols, sir. They're organizing themselves like a merchant convoy, but they're carrying weapons. Kexvar realized she was facing something unprecedented in Zephyrian military history. Not just one human facility using guerrilla tactics, but an entire impromptu fleet of civilian vessels that had spontaneously decided to join a battle they had no tactical reason to participate in. Sir, the sensor operator called, the human-civilian fleet is moving into formation around the mining station. They're singing, Admiral. Singing? Yes, sir. They're broadcasting some kind of human musical composition on all frequencies. Marcus smiled as the familiar melody echoed through the mining station's communication system. The battle hymn of the Republic, he told Williams. Humans have been singing that song before impossible fights for over 400 years. The human-civilian fleet took positions throughout the asteroid field, turning the entire system into a three-dimensional battlefield. Cargo ships used their loading cranes as improvised weapon platforms. Passenger liners converted their entertainment systems into communication jammers. Mining vessels brought industrial equipment that could be weaponized in ways the Zephyrians had never encountered. Admiral Kexavar found herself facing not one modified mining station, but 50 human vessels of various types, all operating with the kind of desperate creativity that military academies couldn't teach. Her 18 warships were still superior in firepower and technology, but the humans had something else. They had absolutely nothing to lose. Admiral, Commander Vexthal called from his damaged flagship. What are your orders? Kexvar studied the tactical display, calculating odds and considering options. Every scenario she ran ended with significant Zephyrian casualties, even if they eventually won. The humans weren't fighting to conquer territory or gain resources. They were fighting for the simple right to exist without bowing to superior force. Commander, she said slowly, I want you to contact Marcus Chen. Tell him I request a personal meeting. Admiral? The humans have reminded me of something that the Zephyrian Empire forgot during our recent expansion, Kexvar said. Some opponents are too dangerous to fight, even if you can technically defeat them. The cost of victory becomes greater than the value of conquest. Marcus received the communication request with interest. Admiral Kexvar appeared on his screen, her blue scales indicating thoughtful consideration rather than angry aggression. Marcus Chen, she said formally. I am Admiral Kexvar of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. I request a meeting to discuss terms. What terms? Marcus asked. The terms under which the Zephyrian Empire withdraws from this system and recognizes human independence. Marcus was quiet for a moment, studying the alien admiral's expression. You're ready to negotiate? I'm ready to admit that conquering humans may not be worth the cost, Kexvar said. You've demonstrated something that the galaxy had forgotten. Some species cannot be conquered because they refuse to accept conquest. Fighting such opponents damages the conqueror as much as the conquered. Williams looked at Marcus in amazement. We did it. We actually convinced them to back down. But Marcus wasn't celebrating yet. Admiral, what guarantee do I have that the Zephyrian Empire won't simply return with more ships?
Kexavar's scales shifted to a respectful green color.
Because, Marcus Chen, today you reminded the galaxy why humans were once feared throughout the stars. That lesson will spread to every species within our borders. The Zephyrian Empire will remember that some opponents are too dangerous to threaten. Marcus looked out at the human civilian fleet that had spontaneously assembled to fight an impossible battle. 47 ships crewed by people who had never met him but had flown into danger because that's what humans did for each other. Admiral, he said, I accept your offer to negotiate, but the terms will be simple. The Zephyrian Empire recognizes human space as off-limits, and will consider not reminding the rest of the galaxy what happens when you threaten us. For the first time in decades, the galaxy was about to remember why humans had once been the most feared species among the stars. 6 months after the Battle of Mining Station 774, the galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. News of the engagement had spread through every trade route, every diplomatic channel, and every communication network in known space. The story grew with each telling, but the core facts remained the same. One human with a mining station had convinced an entire empire to reconsider their expansion plans. Marcus Chen stood in the observation deck of the newly constructed Kepler Memorial Station, watching ships come and go through the system that had become the unofficial capital of renewed human space. The station was larger than the old mining facility, but it maintained the same practical, no-nonsense design philosophy that humans preferred. Sir, Communications Officer Liu called from her station, we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Marcus walked over to the communications console, noting that Liu had requested assignment to the new station after the battle. Many of the original crew had stayed, finding that life on the edge of human space suited them better than comfortable assignments in the core systems. Admiral Sarah Patterson appeared on the main screen, her uniform bearing the insignia of Earth's Stellar Defense Force. Marcus, I wanted to personally thank you for what you accomplished at 774. The ripple effects are still being felt throughout the galaxy. What kind of ripple effects? Marcus asked. 3 different alien empires have formally requested non-aggression treaties with Earth. The Valdorian Republic has asked for human military advisors to help them deal with their own expansion problems. And perhaps most significantly, the Galactic Council has invited humanity to resume our seat as a full member. Marcus raised an eyebrow. We were kicked out of the Galactic Council 50 years ago for being too aggressive. Times change. Now they're worried about other species becoming too aggressive, and they want humans around to remind everyone why peaceful coexistence is preferable to military conflict. Commander Williams, now the official administrator of Kepler Memorial Station, joined the conversation. Admiral, what's the official Earth government position on all this? Cautious optimism, Patterson replied. We're not looking to restart the old expansion conflicts, but we're also not going to let other species treat human space as conquest territory. Marcus proved that humans still remember how to fight when we need to. After the communication ended, Marcus walked through the station's corridors, observing the changes that had occurred since the battle. The facility was busier now, with ships arriving daily carrying humans who wanted to be part of whatever was happening on the frontier. Engineers, scientists, traders, and yes, veterans from the old border wars who had heard the call and decided that retirement was overrated. Peterson still ran the cafeteria, though it was much larger now. He waved to Marcus as he passed, currently serving lunch to a table of former Earth Defense Force officers who had volunteered for frontier duty. The conversation at their table focused on defensive strategies and early warning systems, topics that hadn't been seriously discussed in human space for decades. Mr. Chen, a young voice called from behind him. Marcus turned to see Rodriguez approaching, now wearing the uniform of the station's security chief. The young technician had proven to have an aptitude for tactical thinking that surprised everyone, including himself. What can I do for you, Chief Rodriguez? Sir, we've received requests from 17 different human colonies to help them establish defensive systems. Apparently, word about our improvised weapons has spread, and everyone wants to know how to turn mining equipment into military hardware. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. Set up a training program. But make sure everyone understands that the weapons are only part of the equation. The real defense is the willingness to use them. Yes, sir. There's something else. We've been monitoring Zephyrian communications, and it sounds like Admiral Kexvar has been promoting our engagement as an example of why the Empire should focus on internal development rather than external conquest. Smart woman, Marcus said. She understood that winning a battle isn't always the same as winning a war. Sarah Kim appeared at the end of the corridor, now the chief engineer for the entire station complex. She had embraced her role as the person who could turn impossible ideas into functioning reality, and her reputation was spreading throughout human space. "Marcus," she called, "we finished the modifications to the long-range communication array. We can now coordinate with human settlements across 1,000 light-year radius in real time. Excellent. That means if anyone else decides to test human resolve, we won't be fighting alone." Marcus made his way to the station's memorial hall, a new addition that honored both the veterans of the border wars and the civilians who had answered the call during the Zephyrian crisis. Holographic displays showed images of the 47 ships that had spontaneously assembled to defend a mining station they had never seen, crewed by people they had never met. Williams joined him in the memorial hall. "Marcus, I have to ask, did you know they would come? When you sent out that communication, did you know that civilian ships would fly into a battle zone to help us?" Marcus studied the images of cargo haulers and passenger liners that had been converted into impromptu warships. "I hoped they would," he said quietly. "Humans have this peculiar trait. We respond to calls for help even when logic says we shouldn't. The galaxy forgot that about us. And now they remember. Some of them do. Others are still learning." Marcus pointed to a display showing current galactic political maps. "The hegemony of Tarkus is apparently having second thoughts about their expansion into the Centauri sector. The Krantech Empire has withdrawn from 3 systems they conquered last year. Even species that weren't directly involved in our conflict are reconsidering their aggressive policies." Williams looked at the political display with amazement. "You changed the balance of power in the galaxy with one mining station." "I reminded the galaxy of something they already knew but had chosen to forget," Marcus corrected. "Humans don't make good victims. We're much better at being the thing that other species worry about." A new voice joined their conversation. "That's exactly what the galaxy needed to remember." They turned to see Admiral Kexvar approaching, accompanied by a small diplomatic escort. The Zephyrian admiral had requested permission to visit the station as part of the ongoing negotiations between the Empire and Earth. "Admiral," Marcus said politely, "welcome to Kepler Memorial Station." "Thank you for allowing me to see this place," Kexvar replied. "I wanted to understand how one human convinced an entire empire to change course." Marcus gestured to the memorial displays around them. "It wasn't one human, Admiral. It was the reminder that humans are never really alone. When one of us is threatened, others respond. That's been true for thousands of years." Kexvar studied the images of civilian ships that had joined the battle. "This is not how military conflicts are supposed to work. Civilians should flee from danger, not fly toward it." "Human civilians are different," Williams said. "We don't have a strong distinction between soldiers and citizens. Every human is potentially both. That's what makes your species so dangerous," Kexvar observed, "and so valuable as allies." Marcus looked at the Zephyrian admiral with interest. "Are you proposing an alliance?" "I'm suggesting that the galaxy needs species that remember how to fight when fighting becomes necessary. The Zephyrian Empire learned that lesson from you. Perhaps it's time for other species to learn it as well." Outside the station, ships continued to arrive and depart, carrying news of humanity's return to galactic prominence. The message was spreading through every corner of known space. Humans were back. They remembered how to fight, and they weren't interested in being anyone's victims. Marcus stood at the observation port watching the traffic around the station. In the distance, he could see the asteroid field where the battle had taken place, now marked with memorial beacons honoring both the human crews who had fought and the Zephyrian crews who had shown the wisdom to negotiate rather than continue a costly conflict. "Sir," Rodriguez called from the communications station. "We're receiving a message from the mining ship Terra Nova. Captain Zhang reports that her crew has successfully defended the New Sydney colony from a hegemony, raiding fleet using modified industrial equipment." Marcus smiled. "The lessons are spreading." Williams joined him at the observation port. "What happens next, Marcus? Do we go back to being peaceful miners and traders, Marcus watched a cargo ship maneuver carefully through the asteroid field. Its crew probably unaware that they were flying through the site of a battle that had changed galactic history. "We go back to being what we always were," he said. "Humans. We mine asteroids and trade goods and build colonies and explore new worlds. But we also remember that some things are worth fighting for, and we don't let anyone forget that we know how to fight when we need to." The galaxy had indeed forgotten what made humans dangerous, but Marcus Chen had reminded them, and the lesson would not be forgotten again anytime soon. In the vast expanse of space, among countless species and civilizations, humanity had reclaimed its place not through conquest or aggression, but through the simple demonstration that some few,